The history of movies. In 1878, the businessman and racehorse owner Leland Stanford was debating with his friends about whether or not all four hooves of a horse were off the ground during a gallop. Leland met a prominent photographer called Edward Muybridge and asked him to settle the debate once and for all using photographs. Muybridge set up 12 cameras along the edge of a racetrack in a line to get 12 different pictures of one stride of a gallop. Turns out that at every stride, all four hooves of a horse actually are in the air for a split second. But Muybridge had stumbled on one very important discovery. If you took many photographs of one image taken very quickly one after the other and put them together, you get a moving image. Edward Muybridge was also an inventor. He had come up with a machine called the czerwca. This marvelous invention had a viewfinder that peeped into a light box. Inside this light box was a disc that spun around. When Muybridge took the images of the horse and put them in the czerwca, he saw the horse galloping continuously. With this experiment, he became the father of the moving picture. The very next year, Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb, set his company photographer William Dickinson the task of creating a machine that could take the idea of moving silhouettes to real images. What William Dickinson came up with at Edison Labs was revolutionary, the kinetoscope. He also invented flexible reels of negatives which could be fed into the kinetoscope. Although the kinetoscope was a revolutionary idea, only one person was able to view the image at once. A German named Ottomar Anschutz discovered how to project this image so that a group of people could all enjoy the same image together. When the French brothers Auguste and Louis Lumière got a hold of the two ideas, they merged them into what became the cinema. By then, advances in photography had reached the point that cameras could record up to 24 frames per second, which closely resembled how the eye sees motion. Technology has come a long way since then, but whether you're watching something in 3D or high definition, it all began with a horse galloping. Find a digital camera and ask your friend to complete one action extremely slowly. Try and get at least 30 pictures of this one action. Put it into your computer and flip through them. What do you get?
Located in the neighborhood of Los Angeles, California, Hollywood is the show business capital of the world. It is home to many famous television and movie studios, as well as record companies. The Big Six, 20th Century Fox, Warner Bros., Paramount Pictures, Columbia Pictures, Universal Pictures, and Walt Disney Pictures in Hollywood collectively command approximately 80 to 85% of US and Canadian box office revenue. Welcome to our animated show of history. This episode presents how Hollywood became the center of the film industry. In 1853, where Hollywood is located today, there used to be an adobe hut standing in Nopalera named for the Mexican nopal cactus indigenous to the area. By 1870, here an agricultural community flourished. The area was known as Cahuenga Valley after the pass in the Santa Monica Mountains immediately to the north. When politician and real estate developer Harvey Henry Wilcox and his second wife Daida moved to Los Angeles from Topeka, Kansas in 1883, he purchased 150 acres of land west of Hollywood and attempted to try his hand at ranching. His efforts didn't go so well, however, so in 1887 he filed plans with the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office to subdivide the land. Soon, Prospect Avenue and upscale homes sprung up. H.J. Whitley, also known as the father of Hollywood, on his honeymoon in 1886, was standing at the top of the hill looking out over the valley. Along came a Chinese man in a wagon carrying wood. The man got out of the wagon and bowed. The Chinese man was asked what he was doing and replied, "I hauly wood," meaning hauling wood. H.J. Whitley had an epiphany and decided to name his new town Hollywood. Holly would represent England, and wood would represent his Scottish heritage. Whitley arranged to buy the 480-acre, 190-hectare E.C. Hurd Ranch, and in 1902 he opened the Hollywood Hotel and then became the president of the Lost Pacific Boulevard and Development Company. The hotel was to become internationally known and was the center of the civic and social life and home of the stars for many years. Dada Wilcox learned of the name Hollywood from Ivar Wide, her neighbor in Holly Canyon, now Lake Hollywood, and a prominent investor and friend of Whitley's. She recommended the same name to her husband, Harvey H. Wilcox, who had purchased 120 acres on February 4, 1887. It wasn't until August 1887 Wilcox decided to use that name and filed with the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office on a deed and parcel map of the property. In 1910, the city voted for merger with Los Angeles in order to secure an adequate water supply and to gain access to the LA sewer system. With annexation, the name of Prospect Avenue changed to Hollywood Boulevard, and all the street numbers were also changed. In the early 1990s, most motion picture patents were held by Thomas Edison's Motion Picture Patents Company in New Jersey, and filmmakers were often sued to stop their productions. To escape this, they began moving out west to Los Angeles, where attempts to enforce Edison's patents were more easily evaded. Therefore, by 1912, major motion picture companies had set up production near or in Los Angeles. One more reason that Los Angeles became the capital of the film industry in the U.S. was the ideal weather, and there was quick access to various settings. The mountains, plains, and low land prices made Hollywood a good place to establish film studios. Director D.W. Griffith was the first to make a motion picture in Hollywood. His 17-minute short film in Old California in 1910 was filmed for the Biograph Company. The first film by a Hollywood studio, Nestor Motion Picture Company, was shot on October 26, 1911. The H.J. Whitley home was used as its set, and the unnamed movie was filmed in the middle of their groves at the corner of Whitley Avenue and Hollywood Boulevard. Later, 4 major film companies, Paramount, Warner Bros., RKO, and Columbia, set up their studios in Hollywood. In the 1920s, Hollywood was the 5th largest industry in the nation. By the 1930s, Hollywood studios became fully vertically integrated, as production, distribution, and exhibition was controlled by these companies, enabling Hollywood to produce 600 films per year. The Hollywood sign is a must-see tourist attraction when it comes to this neighborhood, although it didn't start out that way. Its original name was Hollywoodland, which was built in the Hollywood Hills for the purpose of advertising a housing development. However, in 1949, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce entered a contract with the city of Los Angeles to repair and rebuild the sign. They reached the agreement that land would be removed to spell Hollywood, only so that the sign would now refer to the district rather than the housing development, its initial purpose. The Capitol Records building on Vine Street, just north of Hollywood Boulevard, was built in 1956, and the Hollywood Walk of Fame was created in 1958 as a tribute to artists and other significant contributors to the entertainment industry. In 2001, the Dolby Theater, which was opened as the Kodak Theater at the Hollywood and Highland Center Mall, is the home of the Oscars. Recently, Hollywood headquarters for CBS became home to a new generation of broadcasters when cable television networks MTV, Comedy Central, BET, and Spike TV. With no doubt, Hollywood represents a developed film industry and it still dictates fashion for movies. Every year it produces thousands of films that are popular all around the world. Thank you for watching. Please check out our other animations on history, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.